Hello my fellow riders, today we're going to be talking about should you de-restrict your 50cc motorbike or scooter. So we're going to do this in 3 different sections: how to de-restrict your motorbike, should you de-restrict your motorbike, and the consequences of de-restricting your motorbike legally. So let's talk about how to de-restrict your motorbike. There are 3 different types of restriction on a motorbike: electronic, carburation, and in your exhaust. Majority of the motorbikes nowadays use the electronic de-restriction or the carburation de-restriction. The exhaust one isn't really a thing anymore. That was more for the 2-stroke engines. Now when it comes to scooters, mopeds, actual mopeds, not motorbike mopeds, but mopeds, majority of them you can't actually de-restrict anymore. So when it comes to de-restricting your motorbike mopeds, you can do it say with a Yamazaki YM50. That is restricted on a resistor in the wiring loom, and that is on 3rd gear and 4th gear at 7,000 RPM. The issue with this is it makes it so that 3rd gear on that bike is pretty much useless, because restriction is unrestricted in 2nd gear, and that will go 22 miles an hour, is restricted in 3rd, and that means that it will go to only 23 miles an hour. So you lose quite a lot of your momentum by going up into 3rd gear, and you lose even more when you're trying to transfer between 3rd gear and 4th gear. Now with the Champ CM50 and the Fosty F50, these bikes come into the country unrestricted, so you don't actually have to do anything on them to get to the 45 mile an hour range. The only other bike on the market that I have any access to, so I can't really comment on, say, the Aprilia RS50, because I don't know how they're restricted. But the Lexmotor Hunter and the Lexmotor Aspire are both restricted in the carburetor, and that is on the slide in the carburetor. So if you twist your accelerator, you will see that there isn't a lot of movement there. Now the problem with this is, on a the bike will do 45 miles an hour, but when you come to going up and down hills, you are going to have to reduce your gears to the 2nd or 1st gears to be able to get up, because it just doesn't give it enough fuel. That is dangerous, because you will be going up the road at 10 to 20 miles an hour. Now, de-restricting your motorbike, I suggest, as a motorbike rider myself, I have bigger bikes and I have ridden over 5,000 smaller bikes. I would suggest that it is a good thing to do. In Milton Keynes, for example, you can only go on 50cc roads. There is nowhere in Milton Keynes that you can travel to without going on a 50 mile an hour road. Now that is an issue when it comes to keeping up with traffic. You at a 30 miles an hour or to 28 miles an hour on a restricted bike, you cannot keep up with the traffic. Traffic is always going to be trying to push you to the side of the road, and they are always going to be tailbacks and stuff like that, which makes it so it is fairly dangerous for a 50cc rider, because people don't really care about you. They just want to get to where they are going, so they're not going to give you the room. They're not going to take you into consideration. They're not going to take your age into consideration. They are just going to try and push you around. As a rider myself, I always think it's better to be able to keep up with the traffic rather than being restricted to unable to keep up with the traffic. Now, what are the legal ramifications of de-restricting your bike according to the law? Now, I would like to add at the beginning of this section that I have done research on this, but I am not the law, and I can't give you every single law, rule or whatever. So if you are going to de-restrict your bike, I would always suggest going to seek your own legal advice before you do so. That being said, if you are 16 years old and you are on an AM license, then you can ride a 50cc geared or ungeared motorbike, and this bike has to be restricted to 28 miles an hour. Now this isn't 100% true from what I can see, because there are bikes that come into the country unrestricted and they will do 45 miles an hour from day dot. And they also have all the regulations, the COC certificates to come with a bike to say that they have been tested and are able to be used on the UK roads. So if you are 16 years old, you can use a moped with 2 wheels, you can use a moped with 3 wheels, and it has to be restricted to 28 miles an hour. If you pass your driving license before February 2011, you can also use a moped unrestricted, you can use a moped restricted without L plates, and you can take pillion passengers on it on your car license without doing any additional tests. Now, the only other time that restriction comes in is when you're on your A2 and you want to get a bigger bike. If you want to get a 1000cc motorbike on an A2 license, you have to restrict it to a 35 kilowatts of power. Now, there are kits out there you can get to reduce a bigger bike to a lower horsepower output, but they are usually expensive. Now, if you derestrict your motorbike and you get caught by the police, in theory, you are riding around without the correct certification and correct license, and you are riding around with no insurance, because your insurance will not insure a bike that has been modified without you telling them that it has been modified. Should you do it? This is a question that you have to consider. When considering whether to derestrict your motorbike, these are all things that you need to take into consideration. What I would have thought is the person that made these rules probably doesn't ride a motorbike, doesn't use the highways, and hasn't had the experience of riding a 28 mile an hour 50cc motorbike. But at the end of the day, they are the laws and you have to follow the laws.
By the letter.
So thank you for watching my video. I hope it has been informative and I hope you have learned something. Now, whether you consider derestricting your bike or not is entirely up to you. I would say around 60% of all 50cc's on the UK market have been derestricted. It might be more. So if you want to see more tutorial videos, check this video up here. And if you want to see more tutorials in playlists, check the videos down here. But subscribe to my channel to stay updated to all my latest content. But as always, ride safe.